Okay guys, I've got a 2014 Ford F-150 here. And today's project is we're going to change out the expansion valve, which is that right there behind that line. It's right up on the firewall. And we're going to use this part number here, 9L3Z19849A. I think on the valve it says CA. But the reason we're doing this expansion valve is the customer complains that every once in a while his AC gets hot and his fans come on. The high-speed fan comes on, and I have not been able to duplicate it. It only happens to the customer when he's driven it for a few hours. But looking around the internet, it appears that sometimes these expansion valves maybe are allowing the high side to go a bit too high, which turns the high-speed fans on, but it still can't overcome the, it's almost like the expansion valve is sticking partially or fully closed for a minute. Or, yeah, partially closed. It couldn't be fully closed because then the low side would go in a vacuum. So anyway, I am going on a educated guess on replacing this thing. So what you're going to need to do is, first off, you need to have a recovery tank and a recovery machine. If you don't have these items, take it to a shop and pay to have your vehicle recovered so that you can safely contain your Freon. All right, then the next step is, after you're certain you have nothing in your lines, you need to take and get a little bit of freedom on the lines. See, there's a bracket right here, and there's a 10mm bolt right down in there. We're gonna go ahead and pull that out. Give us a little bit of room. Flex the lines a little bit, so that when we loosen it, we can take that out, set it aside. All right, then you have a 13mm on that stud right there. We're gonna go ahead and take that out. Try not to drop that nut. Climb up in the truck here. Yikes, getting old. It's not fun. And there goes my light. Here you go, light. You can go down there. All right. Pull that out. All right. That should give us freedom of movement to get this line kind of out of the way. Yeah. And let's just set it down like that. There. All right. Now you can see you've got some Torx bit screws. They're a T25, if I remember right. So here's my T25. Here's one. Back up into the truck. This bumper is hard on the knees. I'm gonna take the far one out first. The one closest to the firewall, and you'll see why in here just a bit. Okay. Ow. Ooh, this car's still hot. Okay. All right, now, before we go further, do not take that second bolt out. Leave it there for a second. Yeah, I'll explain to you why. Let me use the new part so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here's our new part. And I want to show you this right here. That is what holds the expansion valve in place. What it does is it locks in to one line, and then loops around and hooks into the other. So it goes over the big line and then goes like that, and now you have a line here and a line here, and that's the only thing that holds it in place. So when you take that second bolt out, this can go further in to the evaporator case and it can fall off, or you just can't get to it. That makes this project really difficult. So what I did is I came up with this idea, you know, I don't know, a few years ago. It seems to work pretty well for me. See this here? This is a piece of steel brake line. It's your 5/16 brake line. As a matter of fact, let me go get a piece and show you what I used. 1 second. Oh, you can come with me. All right, where is that? Yeah. So here we go. This is the type of brake line I use. It's 3/16. It is 4.8 millimeter, which is important because the bolts that go in here are 5 millimeter by 0.8. So what I did is here we go. Can you see it? I threaded this rod so that it can go in here, right? You thread that in, and now you can slide the expansion valve, the bolt that I just took out, right like that. Now I can take out this other bolt and I can pull the expansion valve out of the firewall, and I can use this to hang on to it and make sure nothing goes awry. And then when I go to put the new one on, it's going to try to, you know, it's got to line up the ports on the evaporator and go in these little holes. And sometimes they don't just line up so great, and you need to be able to have something to pull on to get everything to go together. And once it does, you can put your other bolts in. Let's find another bolt. Here's one. Nicely, the Ford expansion valve comes with new bolts. All right, so now you can move it around, and once you get this one in, you can take the threaded rod out because now this one's holding it. Okay, see the method to my madness, guys? This is an incredibly cool little mod. I am gonna get some actual 5 millimeter by 0.8 threaded rod to replace this, because I did one time, I was really having a hard time getting something lined up, and this threaded rod broke on me because it's hollow, because it's a brake line. And that was fun, using an extractor to get that, you know, little piece out of the little part back there. That was not a fun project. So here we go. Let's put my little threaded rod in there. Get it started. Sometimes it doesn't want to thread after a few turns. That's okay. It will once I take the other one out. So I've got it started. I'm gonna get in here with this. Pull it out. I did crack that loose. I'm not that strong. All right, see how? Look. Now I can control that piece. Let me get my hand out of the way so you can see that better. Look. Here you go. I am pulling that back piece, and I have control of it, which is very nice. Now it cannot get lost. Super big, important thing. All right, now I'm gonna grab it not by this piece, but by the actual stud coming out of the middle of the expansion valve, and out she comes. Sometimes right around the edge, that foam back there will be stuck to it, and you'll have to kind of just go around with a screwdriver, a really small one, and just go and just kind of just trace it around. You don't have to do a whole lot. It's just kind of stuck a little. And especially at the top where this bulbous looking chamber is, gas chamber thing that actually causes it to work, sometimes it has a hard time getting around that. So just kind of if you move the phone back and forth and make it flexible again and get it unstuck from the valve, it'll pull that right off of there. Okay. Now, compare the valves back and forth to make sure they're correct, because the first time I've gotten the wrong one. As a matter of fact, I had to go back to the shop, or back to the parts store on this one, because I got the wrong one, but I noticed it by the part number. So our ports are the same and the same. So now I'm going to switch this stud over onto this valve, and that looks like it's a reverse torque, so about a T30. I'll need both hands to do that, so I'll be back to you in just a minute. Okay, we're back. We got our stud swapped over on the expansion valve. Off camera, I went ahead and switched out these sealing washers that go on the inside there. Those are kind of a pain to get to. You want to get a pick and gently pull them out, and then don't use the pick to pull them all the way off, or else they'll go flying and you can't find them, which is why this is now 15 minutes later. But instead, just use the pick to bring it out to the kind of the edge, and then reach in there with your fingers and pull it out the rest of the way. And that way you can compare to make sure you have the correct new sealing washers. I really hate losing an O-ring or a sealing washer and not being able to just compare them before I put them together. A lot of times they will give you the wrong stuff. All right, see how that pushes in? And now I'm gonna pull, and boom, the two are together. That is so much easier than fighting to try to get that plate to line up. It is very frustrating to try to line that thing up. See, look at that. And then this is some talent right here. Well, you could do it with your two fingers of your non-dominant hand. Sometimes you gotta just do what you gotta do. But there we go. All right, now that I've got that one locked in place, I can take my threaded rod back out. There she is. And I can put the other bolt in place and get that one started. And then with these, I like to walk it back and forth, just finger tight. Just using my extension to get closer to it. All right. And I just go back and forth to make sure I'm getting this thing even. The last thing you want to do is get that thing cocked on the backside, because then it's not going to put proper pressure on the sealing washers. So just go back and forth. It doesn't take that much longer. All right. Now I'm just going to use a little 1/4 inch ratchet to tighten this. You don't need to muscle these things down, guys. I think maybe if you happen to have a inch-pound torque wrench, I think maybe 80 inch-pounds is the right amount. I kind of just do the tension on the wrist torque, but I'm telling you, you don't want to over tighten these. And yes, I do have an inch-pound torque wrench, but it's not the easiest place to get into. What's that? Tighten, tighten, tighten. I know, this is the boring part. Nobody likes to watch people tightening screws, but and maybe I'll speed it up. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to do that type of editing or not. That's a nice feel there. Not too tight. Not gonna fall off. That one too. Okay. I also swapped out these sealing washers that go on the backside. That's also a pain. They pretty much are gonna fly because there's no way that you can hook onto them. So I got back there with a pick and pulled them off. I knew I had to take the splash guard off anyway to get to the one I lost. So I pulled all three off at the same time. But there's two more sealing washers back here that do not come with the expansion valve. I happen to have a kit that has lots of different sealing washers, and I had the right ones. But if you're gonna change those, which I strongly recommend you do, you'll have to get those separately from Ford. All right, now pull this thing up over the line and gently set it in place. Make sure, I wriggle side to side on these, make sure that it's actually in place, because you also don't want to get discocked, because you can damage the line and you might end up buying the line set. Oops, sorry, I'm not paying attention to the camera there. All right, so there's that. We're going to tighten everything up, and then we're going to put this back into a vacuum and let it sit in a vacuum for, I like to let them sit for an hour. This is a fairly big system. You don't have to. I live in Florida, so we have lots of humidity, so I like to boil it for a good long time. If you're in a drier state than I am, you can put it in a vacuum for less time. So I'm going to stop the video here, and maybe I'll show after when we get all done with it. All right. Okay, while I'm waiting for my vacuum to work over there, figured I'd go ahead and show you how I made this. All right, so we took the 3/16 rod, or brake line, right? And we cut the flare off of the end. I'm not gonna cut this side, I'm just gonna kind of show you. So you cut the flare off, and then you gotta have a bend in it so that you can hang on to the thing while you're threading. Otherwise, it's gonna spin in your hands. So make sure you measure out enough perfectly straight where you want it, and then make a bend after that, okay? Don't cut it yet. Then you're gonna have to use a tap and die set. And can we get there we go. 5mm by 0.8. See that? Okay. So you're gonna want to use that, but I also like to chamfer the end. I got this little chamfering tool from Matco. I love this thing. This is so awesome for putting just a slight bevel on studs or anything that you're about to run a tap and die down. I just love this thing. I don't remember how much it was, but it was worth it, whatever it was. Talk to your Matco guy. They aren't paying me to talk about that, but whatever. All right, so you get that all ready. Have your bend, and then you start your thread and put a thread in it. Make sure you use something to, as a cutting oil. I just use WD-40 because it's a temporary tool. Cut your threads in it, then cut the other side off, and then you have this perfectly straight piece. Okay. Took me 10 minutes to make this, if that, and it was a lifesaver. Probably saved me an hour and a half of struggling. This is like the third or fourth time I've made one. I seem to lose it every time I make one, so I just keep brake line in stock, because I don't know why I can't keep a hold of these things. But my next venture is I am going to see if anybody sells actual threaded rod in a length, approximately this length, or maybe a tiny bit shorter. But until then, I'll keep using brake line. It seems to be working great. Okay, so here we go. Got it all charged up. I went ahead and put new Freon in it. Or it's refrigerant, not Freon. Freon's a brand name. But I put new refrigerant in it. Exactly 1.5 pounds. If you look at your underhood sticker, it'll say 24 ounces, which is 1.5 pounds. So that's what we charged it up with. I was a little concerned about reusing the Freon I pulled out of it. I don't have a refrigerant identifier. I know somebody's been in this system before me. It's unlikely that they contaminated it with anything, but I just said to heck with it. Went for new. Got some really good temperatures on the pipes here. Nice and frigid cold on this one. Beer can cold, some people like to say. And the high side pipe is not ridiculously hot. You can see high side pressure is, well, it just went down. Oh, we just cycled. Let's wait for it to cycle back on. My fan speed's really low right now. I probably need to turn the fan speed up some. But we're never getting to 200, and I think that's what was kicking those fans on. But my cabin temps are at 48.6. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I'm about mid fan speed. Feels cold in the cabin. I'd like to get it a little bit better than that, but I'll be happy with that. We stabilize now. Alright. Alright, so I got into the cabin and I put the fans on high speed, the blower fan on high speed inside, just to see what a full load will do. We got 48 degrees coming out of the vents, and we're still looking good on our stabilized temperatures, or pressures, excuse me. I'm happy with this. This is a darn sight better than what the shape this vehicle was in when it came in. My battery just died. Battery just died on my little. This thing's totally cool. These Power Probe. You can put 2 sensors on. I'm only using one of them right now. But man, I love this thing. Yet another unpaid promotion. Power Probe. Send me a check if you want. But I love these. These are cheap. Unbelievably cheap. I lost so many of the little, stick thermometers that you threw in the dash vent. I will never lose one of these bright red little sensors. Anyway, but I'm happy with this. This thing feels beautifully cold inside. It's running great. I haven't seen the high-speed fan come on. I've revved it up. I think this is if you have that problem where your high-speed fans are coming on and staying on at idle when your AC's on, and you have like this guy where your AC starts getting, a little hot on hot days, even when the fans are kicking on, try changing out that expansion valve. That really helps tremendously. I don't know what was wrong with the old one. I'm not a forensic analysis guy when it comes to expansion valves, but it sure did the trick on this one. All right, guys, I hope this helps you.